30 feet by 50 feet, which is probably 14, 18, 20, 22, 24, 20. It's probably the width of this room from that wall to a little bit beyond that wall. That would be the footprint of a 30 by 50 house. That would be the level area that would be used or be needed to situate a house.
Have you driven on Andrew Street?
I've driven all around the site, yes,
You look down from that house?
Yeah.
Okay.
to the extent possible. Our land is pretty vegetated right now,
Yeah.
so there would,
No, I tried to go up in my truck, but I couldn't get through.
so those are the substantial changes from our last presentation to now. Be rest assured, the proposal before you now on the plans submitted and the application is based on technical, real circumstances, real information. And so we're comfortable and confident that what's proposed can be designed fully to its extent possible.
Okay, thank you.
Joe was saying something. You were saying something.
You keep going.
All right, could we start with Christian with questions? Fish one?
Just as a preliminary question, because it's been brought up a couple times, is
Sure.
that this area, there were plans for it to be developed several decades ago.
Yes.
And my understanding is that process went very far along in the planning board. So was there any, as part of this project, did you go back and look at any of those plans or review the work that was done decades ago?
Yes, we did. And things have changed through the decades. The standards that applied back then have been upgraded or constrained a lot more, since then, that we needed to comply with those standards and ordinances. In addition to that, the development back then were groups of 2 townhouses. And I'll speak for myself. We didn't feel that was consistent with the Village of Cornwall. I think the individual lots with an individual home sitting on 40 to 50,000 square feet of land, 40,000 as a builder's acre to 50, actually some of the lots are 58,000 square feet, would be more consistent with the suburban feel of this area. And as Jim had mentioned, I can guarantee the houses will be contextual and period in their design. I mean, that's without question. So the neighborhood feel, I believe, would be so much more appealing to the area rather than townhouses side by side with 3 floors up and down and, things of that nature.
And any other questions?
Yeah, my other question, so since the last time, it looks like lots 1 and 2 have a private driveway?
Well, it has access off of Shore Road, and we'd like to develop and work along with the municipal engineer and attorney for a shared driveway for those 2 lots. So it'll be one access onto Shore Road, but you'd have a shared easement agreement for that driveway so that the 2 houses could share it.
You have shown more landmarks in detail on this set of maps than the last time, but I still don't see River Road. And so I think it's really important to know where River Road is in relation to that driveway and then also the access, the lane that you're putting in for the development.
I know.
We can do
Where
that.
is it on Sugar
The
Road?
scale will be small, but we can do that without question.
So right now your idea is to have the opening in front of the DPW or by the sewer plant? Where are you thinking?
At the intersection of Shore Road,
By the railroad tracks?
yeah, away from the DPW and away from the waterfront. It's more west of there on Shore Road. Or east, I'm sorry, east.
So it's towards the,
You mean north or south, right?
yeah, this is,
Well, north and south, on this plan, south is on the top of the page, north is on the bottom. So west would be to our right.
so where's the river? Let's go from the river.
The river is all the way to the right.
All the way over there? Oh, here.
It's more mood now.
So I'm just trying to imagine the opening. Where will it be?
I don't have the cross street, my apologies. This is the location map, if that helps. And I will zoom into it to show all the cross streets.
That would be very helpful. And that, and on the other side, Moodna, a little bit, the floodway, just kind of the bookends.
We could do a
And I
location.
looked at what you had, I think that's very helpful, but it's small.
It is.
And when
yeah.
you start looking at this here, I think the members are saying, can you show me where some of the key points are? And that's all. And I think you could do that.
Oh, absolutely, without question. Be rest assured.
Just as far, like, I have a question only because of,
Sure.
it's an issue about what's depicted or not. David, I don't see it here, but I saw it in the first set of renderings. There's a Idlewild Circle or Idlewild Drive, I'm not sure what it's called. And the only reason I bring it out is because there was a lot of discussion the last time about this being in the View Preservation District, not only being within the View Preservation, but having, you know, enormous views. So that street, if I'm correct, is mentioned specifically in the View Preservation Code as having sensitive views. I can't tell from that first rendering if it's within the required distance or not. It may not necessarily have anything to do as far as meeting the code requirements, but it's something I think that the board, what we're talking about, what's not on here, if that could be on here, I think that'll help the board once we get to the kinds of issues about view preservations and where we're going to locate the views and things like that.
I agree. We're anxious to get to the technical review. I understand we're still under pre-application, and I understand the thoughts with that. I was hoping to be more into the technical review, start to get those type of comments back from you, from Jason, and to move the project forward. But we'll do so. Well, as we've done with other municipalities, we can do a view shed map, just showing the allocations, what elevation the zoning code establishes the view or the preservation, and then how that, or if our project even impacts that. Because don't forget, our project is still lower than the upper elevation towards the south. So we're really not impacting the views. But we can demonstrate that with a cross-section through the site to show the houses above their views, and then the houses that we're proposing, which are lower in elevation.
David, we would expect a view analysis, visual analysis.
Sure.
So you're saying exactly what we're going to ask for. So
You know what?
We'll
I
take
really,
a look too, and maybe have some recommendations, some of the members might, of where we'd like it from,
Yeah.
cross-section. So
you know,
what we'll ask for.
you know what? I know.
Not a problem, it's a concept.
You're not. You would be consistent with several other municipalities. So we've done them. We know what to show. I can't wait to do that. I want to get to that point with you. Sure.
Okay.
Are you done?
Visual?
So under, right above lot 1, it says 1,500 square feet. Is that the size of the house? And then I'm just curious, what will be the range of the square footage of the houses?
Yeah, 30 by 50, 1,500 square foot footprint.
Okay. And so that's not the house, I mean, what size house could that accommodate?
There's so many variations. So if we put within that 30 by 50 a garage, that would be a 2,200 square foot house. If we added the garage to the side, that 30 by 50 would be a 3,000 square foot house plus the garage. It depends how we develop the footprint
So
or design
houses
it.
could range anywhere from 2,200 to,
Well, I'm going to answer your question. Your zoning code maximizes the lot coverage at 15%. So we would have to take into consideration the driveway and how that impacts the lot. It's the area of the driveway in relationship to the lot, and that helps in dictating the size of the house. But if I had to guess right now, comfortably, say you went with a 30 by 40, which is 1,200 times 2 is 2,400, to say 4,000 square feet. I would feel comfortable in that range without question.
You know, I have had, I don't remember correctly, but we have had issues where the people were considering driveway was not being considered as lot coverage or was being considered. So we'll have to clarify that.
I mean, it was determined on the previous application, one of the applications we had in the past, the paved area is not considered coverage.
Okay,
It's the building itself.
all right,
Fantastic.
all right.
Let's up that to 5,000 square feet then.
The cul-de-sac is.
Yes.
Is that, so we are ready, I'm a nuts and bolts guy.
Sure.
So cul-de-sac, is it big enough to fire truck to turn around?
Oh, yeah, we investigate, well, actually, we didn't have to. We have that information from other projects. It's emergency vehicle accessible. It meets the fire code, fire apparatus code.
Okay.
So we are set.
Who's gonna plow the street, the village or you?
Well, I'm getting a little old to do that, so I don't know if I could do that myself.
I mean, all the house
Well,
homeowners.
if I had to predict the future, I would imagine the street would be dedicated to the village, and snow removal would be a part of their process.
That right, Manny?
You have to go through a process for that. The police have to assess.
Because otherwise the homeowners will need a
They have to make an
agreement.
application to do that, as part of the application.
If so, as Manny rightfully brings out, we would make sure the road complies with the village code regarding thickness of asphalt, width, binder, things of that nature.
And last, my ignorance, on the third page, in the envelopes, you say FF. What does that mean?
Finished floor elevation.
So just to finish my portion out, I mean, erosion is my main concern. But
Sure.
the houses who are there, they come first, obviously, because those people have already built the houses.
Sure.
Andrew Street, Braden Court, all those houses. So I think as the application moves forward, I'm not against it at all. But we'll be asking questions like that.
Yeah, it's a valid question, of course. And so we would develop an erosion control and sediment plan that would demonstrate how those houses would not be affected and what we would do on site to protect from erosion of the soils. Also keep in mind our limits of disturbance. So the area around the house, the area around the driveway, I'm sure you're familiar with those terms, are far from any of the surrounding houses. I mean, the closest limit of disturbance, I think, would be on lot number 7 and 9, and they are over 120 feet away from the property line, and then add to that the distance from the property line to the existing houses. So it's quite possible that our limits of disturbance may be over 200 feet away from any nearby homes. And that's a physical reality. The homes are there, the property lines are set, the meets and bounds descriptions are given. It's pinned already on site. Where we locate the houses would be verified during this field survey.
Anything else? Good, thank you. Gary?
Last time you had a representative there was a concern about water flowing down to Shore Road, and you used the term west to Shore a lot, and we just want to make sure that has that come up, and what are we gonna do to make sure that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to demonstrating that to the board. I know I'm repeating, I want to get to the technical review, get to a formal application, but to address that, we would do so in the erosion control and sediment plan, and that would demonstrate how any disturbance during construction that would have the potential to erode that land would be mitigated and handled on site as per DEC requirements. So it's a standard that not only the village has, but the state has, that's mandated to control site development.
Any other questions, Gary?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Dave?
I have heard tonight at least 3 times references to the appearance of the houses that will be built as
Okay.
part of this project. And it comes to me that as we look at what has been presented so far, it looks like these houses are marching around the site. And look a little like barracks at West Point, maybe. But what comes to me is I wonder if there's any discussion going on among you people who are putting this together about getting some opportunities to move some of these buildings around, homes, with cluster housing.
Bring them closer together?
Yes, using the ability of cluster housing to modify some of the rules and regulations.
Well, that's a good thought. It's something that we did start to look at, but I think vegetated buffers between the homes and along a tree line design along the road would help quite a bit. Right now we're just looking at, as you mentioned, rectangles on a plan. But once we develop a landscaping plan, along with those rectangles, you'll see circles with trees and bushes labeled and things of that nature. And so it will look more amorphic as opposed to just a rectilinear, dogmatic straight plan.
We'll talk about that later. I mean,
Okay.
As this develops
Sure.
down the road.
Absolutely. Again, we look forward to.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could I just ask, I think I know what you're saying. So it looks sort of like perfectly positioned, right? Like soldiers in a row, you're saying. So maybe you'd like to see the houses a little bit more haphazardly placed, as if they were built one at a time, and the development just evolved over time.
As you said,
Yeah.
you want them to
Yeah.
look like they've been here for 100 years.
I mean, we can take a look at that, certainly. I think, and David will educate me here, I think part of the challenge is that we're trying to place the lots in areas that are level and not in steep slope. Yes, David?
Yes.
So our ability to do that, but we're gonna look at that, and we're gonna certainly try to incorporate that comment into the plan.
We tried that at the planning board probably 12 to 15 years ago. It didn't fly then. You might review some of those records to see what the problems were in creating a full cluster housing proposal.
We may be able to accomplish part of what you're looking for in varying styles of homes, maybe, right? So it's not gonna look, like, the last thing we want this to look like is a development, quote unquote. We want it to look like it was built over time and sort of evolved on this.
There is no
Okay.
style of housing in Cornwall on Hudson.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Okay. I just have a few things to add, and board members covered many of the things that I'm also concerned about. Could we look at, just looking at the drawing C2, I just have a couple of questions on it. We've covered a lot of them. You mentioned, and I just want to make sure I clearly understand the lines.
A lot of
Has
lines, right?
The lines for the road.
Yeah.
No, I understand a lot lines. The lines for the road, because as Vishwa mentioned, I'm a little concerned about the safety of the turnaround. And I'm looking at it, it says 50-foot wide and 30-foot road. So what does the 50-foot stand for? Is that a sidewalk, or is that?
No, that's your embankment.
That's
So
the
in a-
embankment. So it's still drivable? You could still?
No, the 50 feet minus the 30 foot leaves 10 feet on each side for vegetation, for curbing, for anything that would have to, that evolves from our design. So it would be reserved for the 10 feet along the road.
So your turnaround is really then only 80 foot wide?
Now, the turnaround's 120 feet.
Is 120 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll give you a
Radius is
detail.
40 and 40 is 80.
The radius is 60. You know what, I'll
If you
further,
could check that. All
Sure.
I'm looking for is the fire trucks, turnaround, et cetera. Can you please check that? And I
Absolutely.
was a little confused, but you answered my questions about the berm. You could work that very easily. Thank you.
thank you.
A couple other things. You mentioned the wetlands, and you mentioned that the Corps had designated them. So I guess we'll be looking for that in the long form,
In the long form EAF, yeah.
the CEQA. Compliance, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, the village tree preservation law that's
Okay.
going to be coming about. And so we'll be looking for compliance with that as we move forward, because I'm sure it'll be passed by then. But our legal advisor will tell us about it a little bit as the next topic. But I just wanted to mention that it's coming.
Can we go ahead and request that in advance so that we could start to prepare? Because I would imagine you want some of the trees surveyed and protected according to the tree preservation law?
Sure. What, we are actually having a continued public hearing next Monday,
Okay,
and there are some slight changes, so I don't know if the board is going to want to adopt it on Monday, or that it may get pushed off to sometime in November. But I'm confident it will be in place. It's probably on the website, actually. I can, there's no problem. I can send you the current draft.
Okay.
It's just not final.
sure.
I mean, you can look for it, general information purposes. I do expect that if it's not at next Monday's meeting, likely in November, it'll probably be adopted. Which brings up just one more point.
Sure.
So I think it was Jesse that was
Yeah,
here for you
yeah.
last time? And we explained it to Jesse, and the law itself is not in place, but to the extent that you have this pre-application in, if there's going to be any clearing done at all, you'd have to get that approved from the code enforcement officer. Jesse said he understood that, and I just want to make sure it's clear that nothing's to be disturbed until either the board approves it or you get the proper permit from Manny.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
The last thing I wanted to ask for is obviously the one thing we're a little concerned about is the construction period and how that's done. And I see you have here Monday through Saturday, but also during the construction period, we talked about a little bit is possible erosion, other things. How are you going to mitigate those sorts of things as you're building so that we better understand your plan when you come back? Not now, you don't need to talk about it.
Yeah,
That's a concern that we would have as during the construction. It's not going to cause an issue.
Again, a valid concern. We have addressed that, and we will address in two ways. One is DEC has requirements for ongoing construction, and two, there is a construction sequencing that can be outlined. It doesn't cover every detail, but it gives a broad stroke on the sequencing of events that would occur with the construction and how the site is kept intact during that time.
Thank you.
Just one follow-up
ahead.
with what Chairman said about about the cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
I believe they're going to need a letter from fire chief
yeah.
to say
Oh.
that that's okay.
They will be
Sure.
notified.
I'm sure we're not there yet.
No, we're not.
Yeah,
no,
we're not
there
quite
yet.
there then, yeah.
You're taking a look. Okay. Do any other members of the board have any other questions? Okay.
Can I
As you
ask a
know-
question? Oh,
Oh, Joe?
can I?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So David, we know that the water is not supposed to run off the site, right? So that's why you're going to have your stormwater plan.
Yes.
I don't have to tell you, we've had like 3 1,000-year storms here in Cornwall on Hudson in the last, 18 months. And the village is dealing with a lot of that. And we've had some storm damage, I'll call it, in and around Shore Road. I don't know if particularly here, but so one of the things that I'm thinking ahead to is you're going to be channeling all that stormwater down towards Shore Road. I don't know if the catch basins on Shore Road are going to be able to handle what you might be putting into them. So there might be some off-site mitigation we might have to talk about, as this develops.
Yes. Again, just to reiterate one point, the road we're proposing bisects the property. That road will have stormwater piping management within it. So we're not expecting Shore Road to collect any stormwater.
Okay.
We're expecting the stormwater to remain on site.
Okay.
And then, as I mentioned, diverted to two depressions in the ground, for lack of a better word, that would handle that stormwater and allow it to perk.
Okay. All right. So that would take care of my
That's
concern.
fine.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
So, and I don't know, maybe I'll start with you, what about some traffic? So is it just gonna be like a stop sign? Maybe we're too early to talk about that as far as, accessing the development from Shore Road and the people leaving the development and going out onto Shore Road. Do we know?
Yeah. So we would always, we're always going to look at traffic, of course. We're always going to look at drainage, all of those things. So yes. Looks like 15 traffic trips in the morning, 15 in the evening. So I don't know, I don't know if we were talking about a traffic light, but we'll let the professionals figure that out. But maybe, traffic control device of some sort might be necessary. Maybe.
And Manny, when the river is on high tide, what happens to their catch basins? They are going to eventually go to the river.
Well,
What happens to Shore Road then?
like you say, he's not discharging all of the water onto Shore Road. That water will be contained on site and slowly will dissipate from the site, most likely in a natural way underground. So it's not like they're taking all the water and all the water is going into the river at the same time. And this all will be calculated by the engineers. They have to provide zero runoff from the site. And how they get there, that's their business.
I mean, I don't know if you guys live along the Hudson or not, but on high tides, it gets up there.
Yeah, well, in the 5 towns where I'm from, Long Island, we're on the water and through every major storm, we're devastated, on the water. The property is adjacent to the waterways in our area also, so it's also stormwater mitigation and stormwater capacity is a big issue for us in Long Island as well.
Okay. Any other questions? We look forward to, we appreciate you coming and talking to us about the changes, why you did the changes, et cetera. And we look forward to when you submit your application and reviewing that on your site. And obviously, we'll get a lot of help from our engineers, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman,
Just to be clear,
Yes,
I have one more
sure.
question. David, I don't know how accurate this is, but at the last meeting, a member of the public advised that potentially some of the area depicted on the map was owned by owners other than Sinha or state of Sinha. And I think that goes to Mr. Chowdhury's question about whether there are other partners or parties. So it's just an open question. I don't know if it's valid, correct, or incorrect.
let me take a moment to address. Yeah. So we gave a color rendering of what we proposed. It was a little premature than what I wanted to at the time, but the thought was it would be good to get it before the board. It was a color rendering. It wasn't based on anything technical. It probably did overlap on certain things. This presentation, this submission is technically based. So the things that are depicted here were done by a surveyor, for example. So the meets and bounds, the descriptions, everything associated with this land is delineated and defined. So there's no overlap, there's no
mystery lots.
no mystery lots. It's at least to the best of my knowledge, anyway. But there's no. He certified it. It's a certified survey. We're feeling comfortable with it. So that it just addresses the one thing, and just like to proceed from there. So is it my understanding then from the board we can move out of pre-application and get to a formal submission so we could start the technical review process?
We will take that in consideration and have a vote. So, but I'm sure it's coming.
Okay, great.
We're gonna have a vote. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your questions and your concerns. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Yes. No. Okay, what I'd like to do is hear any thoughts about what was just requested, and then have a motion to move forward for their application, to submit their application, formal application. Do I hear a motion to support that? For their submittal of a formal application? Or not? You want to have a discussion first?
Why don't you make the motion and then have a second and start the discussion?
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Second?
Second, I'll second.
Okay. Discussion?
Anybody have any discussion before?
I was just wondering, I mean, there's some concerned neighbors here. When do they get to talk today? Or
It's public hearing, when we get the public hearing.
they should be able to ask the developer questions, shouldn't they? They're the ones who are gonna live next to them. What's the law?
Well, there's no law on it,
There's
Vish.
no law.
I mean,
I don't have any issue with it. If we want to do that, if anybody has a particular question, we're not gonna be, having debates.
Yeah.
But if somebody has a question, sure.
I just have a
well,
question.
I'm sorry,
When you're
while the motion is pending, and maybe you want to get comments from the public first, but just, I would ask for a comment from the code enforcement officer as to his opinion,
Okay.
whether he'd like to see, additional items on the plan before it goes any further. I think that's important.
Okay. Go ahead. Anything different that you've been concerned about?
I don't think at this point there's plenty more information that we're gonna need to have on the plans.
Sure.
But I believe for a pre-application meeting, this is sufficient. That's why I allow it to continue to come before you, so that they can gather all this information that have been discussed tonight and be able to provide a proper official presentation to be scheduled for a public hearing at the next meeting. Definitely it takes a lot more work from their part and a lot more work on my part to do a review to make sure that that was provided before it gets to you. To make sure that I send it to all the agencies that will need to comment on this project, including, of course, the fire department, as you mentioned. But I can, just to put you at ease, nothing can happen on the site other than surveying or maybe testing of the soil. Nothing else can happen without a permit. So I'm sure the applicant is not going to do any clear cutting or any activity whatsoever until approval is given.
Okay, thank you. So you're recommending
I recommend that they,
move forward
100%, yes, sir.
and go to final?
Yes, sir.
Before we take our final vote, then, I'll ask if anyone in the audience has any question for Mr. Velarde or David?
Well, maybe my questions are.
What's your name, ma'am?
Susan Aquisto, and my house is on, it's River Avenue, 17 River Avenue.
Okay,
Maybe my questions are more for the public hearing, because I'm having, well, this one question is suitable for this. I'm having trouble, and I haven't been at previous meetings, so I apologize, but where is this exactly? If I'm at the DPW, this is to my right?
No.
Ahead?
Mhm.
That way?
Directly across.
Directly across? Okay.
directly across, yeah.
So all the traffic would come out on Shore Road from this
Yes.
subdivision. So, and then they would either go to 9W, where there's that narrow turn, that's 10-mile-an-hour turn. So I'm wondering if there's any thought as to improving that. And then also, there would be potential traffic on River Ave. And I was wondering where the main construction traffic would be coming from. Is that off of 9W on Shore Road? Or will that be coming?
That would be part of the construction plan. And that's why we want to take a look at how you getting in, how you getting out, how you making sure you mitigate any erosion, all those other things. That's what they have to provide.
Okay. And
Good
then
questions.
It also sounds like an environmental impact plan has been done, right?
There has to be one
There
done.
will be, not yet.
There will be done.
Okay, all right, so
No.
I can say my.
Go ahead.
This is why I asked for public to comment, because the turn by the Sealy's Bait Shop, I don't know how construction vehicles will make that. And then by Castaways, that 90-degree turn. So anyway, something they have to consider. So
They have to think
this is
through that.
better before the application moves forward. So you guys should consider that. And maybe you should drive those turns that lady's talking about.
Yeah, some moving trucks have trouble in
Yeah,
that area.
I have trouble on that turn.
It's tough.
Anyone else?
Anybody else have any, okay,
Go ahead.
yes.
I mean, I was here at the last meeting, so I appreciate that there's more information and additional information on the actual map. And I'm thankful that you said something about the view preservation as well as all the water that we're getting. And I know last time, I'm not sure if the same people were here, expressed significant concern about their own houses and their integrity on where their plots stand. And that slope is quite steep. So I would think before you want to do anything, you want to make sure that that is, that there's integrity to build there. And also, I'm just thinking, as a person who would be buying in Cornwall and Hudson, I'm not sure that I would actually want to move right across the street from a sewer plant. So I'm not sure in terms of the cost effectiveness of this project, what that would look like, but that's just my comment. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, yes. And can your name?
And I live up on Braden Court.
Okay.
So we're kind of overlooking the property, and I'm wondering if you're aware that without your beginning construction, there has been active erosion of the slope there, and multiple residences up above have complained to the town about that and asked to have it addressed. So that's without touching the property. Okay, there are erosion issues. And so there's even greater concern that once construction starts, that will be significantly worse. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And we too respect your right to develop your property. That's what real estate is about. But we're also concerned about preserving our property's value and not having our view obstructed or our backyard starting to erode. So we just make that point to you, okay?
Okay.
I got it.
Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'd like to continue our discussion or not on whether we want to
Better vote, right?
vote to move forward. The motion move forward.
I'm ready to move. Go ahead.
Say aye if you
Aye.
support.
Aye.
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 Okay, we got support. So we will move forward. And thank you very much for your presentation and thanks for what you've changed so far. We look forward to seeing what your plan as it's submitted.
And if I can say just one more
Yes.
thing. The politician can't stop talking. If any residents want to take my contact info or David's contact info and has the plans they developed, and I'm hearing concerns about erosion control, we can meet with you privately. We can, meet here or in David's office or wherever, a local restaurant, and just keep you updated on what the progress of the plan is, so we can answer all of your concerns. Okay, on views and on erosion, but in terms of stormwater control, there'll be a lot more capacity on site with what we're gonna do there. Just in the road, and every house will have their water contained on site. So the stormwater capacity will be a lot better. There'll be really virtually no runoff because it'll all be maintained on site. There'll be no capacity inside the road and on each of the lots. So that will improve, that part of it will improve. But we wanna put your mind at ease with, especially with erosion control, right, David?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's move on to the last topic for tonight, and we're going to ask Mr. McKay to give us an update on where are we on the village tree preservation law.
So I touched on it earlier. The village board will be having its continued public hearing on Monday night. Since the last time that we met and we spoke, the only additional comments I received were from Manny. I have looked at those, and one of the concerns that was raised, of course, is it's the balance, right? We don't want to be the tree police and make everyone with a single family home come in for a permit to cut down a couple of trees, right? Versus we know that people, even with single and two family homes, have cut a substantial part of their property. So the concern all around your board, the village board, is how do you make that balance? The law, as it was drafted, had segregated out, accepted out single-family homes and two-family homes from the need to come to this board for an approval. Manny has suggested, and I've reviewed, and I don't disagree with it, that to include single-family and two-family homes that cut more than 8 trees of a certain diameter. I think it was 19 centimeters. Is that what it was, Manny? Something like that?
19, yeah.
So if you're a single-family or two-family dwelling and you're going to cut more than 8 trees with a 19 centimeter circumference?
19 inches.
19 inches. Okay.
19
centimeter was
centimeters, 6
tiny.
inches.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. That's all right. Well,
Metric system.
well, every time I learn something new, something old falls out. I'm on maximum overload here. So anyway, so this 8 tree bright line. Mature growth trees, 8 or more. More than 8. More than 8, you have to come in for an approval. 8 or less, no approval. Which still leaves, potentially some other code updates concerning clear cutting or harvesting and things like that. But Manny's suggestion would allay a lot of the concerns, issues that were addressed, by the village board and this board about if you exempt single and two-family homes, what if they clear cut? What if you have a single-family home on 12 acres and 10 acres are gone, right? So this would address that concern. That's really the only changes Manny adopted. I had given an option within the code about the definition of either development or redevelopment, and I asked to pick one. Manny picked one, so that's off the list. He updated the single and two-family home issue. That's off the list. And I'm just going to tweak Manny's suggested language on the single and two-family homes to be a little more consistent with the definitions in the code. Those are the only changes. Within the next day or two, I will send an email to everyone pretty much just summarizing that. I'll make some tweaks to the latest draft of the law. And then it'll be up to the village board at the next meeting. If they think this is not a substantial change to the law, they can move forward and adopt it. If they think this is something they want more public comment on, they can continue the public hearing until November.
Any questions for Mr. McKay?
Joe, you read this thing in detail, I'm sure, right? So if
I wrote
if
it.
a
Well, I
homeowner
copied
has
it.
That's getting ready to endanger his house, he can cut that tree, right? He can take that tree down,
Yeah,
come for permits and stuff.
no, if you're developing property or if you're redeveloping property and it's more than 8 trees, you have to call Manny. Other than that, no, if a tree's fall, no. We're not the tree police. We're not the tree police. Okay.
Ma'am?
I have a question, but it's
one-family or two-family house on a really steep slope.
Well, all this says is if you intend to cut more than 8 trees of a mature size,
Steep slope, you can have a lot of trouble even if you're cutting 3 or 4 trees. We've had that problem in the past along the river.
and what kind of trouble are you talking about?
You're having erosion because people on a steep slope
Okay.
on a road.
Right. So, at the risk of repeating myself, right, the village doesn't want to go into everybody's backyard and say, you can cut that maple, but you can't cut that one. So we're trying, and initially, the proposed law completely exempted 1 and 2 families. So we're kind of clawing back now and say, you're exempt, but if you reach a certain threshold, you still have to come in. So, and you'd have to speak to the building inspector, and he would have to approve, give you a permit to do what you wanted to do, or refer you here to this board for its review before that permit is granted. Go ahead.
We already do have regulation for steep flow. We got 3 categories. Depending on which one you fall in, type 1, 2, or 3, there are certain triggers and requirements. So that's already in our code.
Okay. And Joe, this is just for completely removing the tree, completely cutting it down?
The definitions talk about cutting, girdling, poisoning, yeah, but removing.
But the baseline of this new law reflects really what the town's already.
Yes, I was not.
Things we'd like to add to it, but the base of it is something the town of Cornwall has already approved.
Correct.
Just
And
for clarification.
And I wasn't really kidding when I said to Vish, I copied the law. This is 95% of the town's law. But we want to have consistent
Sure.
regulations. So the point was, take the town's law, which was very, very thorough, and I looked at the definitions and I added a few because I know based upon other applications that we've had and other issues that we've had about whether things are development or redevelopment. So I went into our code, I included some new definitions. The one thing that I personally changed that I felt strongly about was that this board doesn't issue permits. You can only grant an approval or not. The town's code speaks in terms of getting a permit from the planning board. To me, Mr. Carmona issues permits, this board issues approvals. So I made that change throughout. It's substantially the town's law with a couple of tweaks so that it fits within our code.
In our code. Any other questions?
Yeah, Joe, just from my own understanding, does that stem from the mishandling of the golf course when all the trees were? Is that where?
Actually, maybe the chairman, you were on the committee, right? Did the committee that ultimately?
I wasn't on at that time.
At that time. But it must have gone back before, everybody's outraged about the golf course, sure.
Right, I mean, that was
Sure.
absolutely.
But I think the town was working on this even before that.
Before then.
Yeah. But yes, it's intended to stop things like that.
Good question. Anybody else?
Well, you can't stop, you know what happens. You find out people cut stuff down after they cut it down. But to the extent that you have people who are willing to follow the law and follow the code, responsible property owners, they would come in and they would need a permit or an approval.
Right, I think that's why now it has to go like in front of many to make sure that that could get done and not have that happen again, so.
Okay, are there any other questions? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All say, agree, say aye. Aye. Officially adjourned. Thank you very much.